Hey guys, welcome back to another Weird Wednesday. I'm Asherz, and this is
Tobias.
Tobias. How was your weekend?
Boy, how was my weekend? I already forgot what I did, so I'm I'm gonna have to think about it for a second. Oh God, I know. I feel like I didn't really do much of anything. We went to no, okay. So Emily and I took my parents to Old Brick Gardens in Madison because they have like their orchid show or something, and my wife likes plants. She loves growing house plants and has several gardens and stuff. And my mom is the same way. And so it was one of those things where my dad and I dutifully I took our spouses to this fucking orchid show, and that took hours. And it was fine. Like one of the nice things that Old Brick Gardens does is they have this conservatory. So even if you don't give a shit about orchids, which fundamentally I do not, because of course I don't, you
They
can
can't
go
read,
to
so that's
right. You can go to the conservatory, which is this indoor plant space that is kept much warmer than it is outside. So you go there in January or February in Wisconsin, and it's super nice. And for this particular show, they had kind of like a dinosaur theme. And so they had set up all of these like dinosaur skeletons everywhere, which I thought was kind of cool. And then they had, well, this is something they always have. There's always birds and shit in there, right? And so you'll see like these songbirds, which are really nice, especially being able to see those in the wintertime. But then they just have like live quail running around, just free range quail,
oh,
which is my favorite because if you've ever seen them, they're just these goofy, adorable little fucking birds, right? They're just the best, and they're just running around being quail the whole time. And so I can enjoy that if nothing else. But yeah, God, and then I started researching this new book that I'm doing, which should be pretty interesting, and I'll get into that more, in later episodes. But I guess Old Brick Gardens was kind of the highlight. Tell me you did something more exciting than go to an orchid show.
oh God. I have to own up to something that I did that I'm not proud of. So I have many a time talked about my friend Cherish, who locally owns this oddity shop, and I love her shop. I can't quit plugging it enough. The Secret Chamber House of Oddities and Artwork. Definitely go check it out. She has an entire haunted museum in the basement,
Neat.
so go see that. Yeah. Anyway, so she was doing an art show this weekend, and it is like an anti Valentine's Day type of thing. It's a fetish art show, and I really wanted to go to that. And it's she always does awesome art shows. I participated in some before, but I did not go,
Why
and
not?
I'm disappointed in myself. Well, here's the thing: there is a person in my friend group who doesn't like me, and for all intents and purposes, I don't like her either.
I I okay. Does somebody need to explain to you what a friend group is? Because that doesn't sound right.
So she is an outsider of the friend group, all right? And she's kind of new, and she is pulling some shady shit. And I'm not going to get into I'm not going to give you guys the, tea time here on the Wednesday show, but the thing is that I see through her bullshit. Okay, I know. And if you're listening to this, I know, right? Because she might listen to this because she's that kind of person. She's that kind of manipulative person. She knows that I know. So therefore, she kind of directly competes with me on a constant basis, and it's not fun for me. And this particular friend group is not friends with like my friend Cherish, right? They're not, in those people. So two totally separate friend groups that were kind of coming together because we're all weirdos in the area and we like fetish art.
Hmm.
And so decided that instead of going and kind of muddying my safe friend group, right? Where I'm allowed to be me and not have to worry about competing with another person. I decided, you know what, fuck it. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to spoil my good time because I'm going to be too busy focusing on that person. But at the end of the day, I should have went, right? Because it's me that loses out. And so I regret doing that, and did a little soul searching and decided that I'm not going to continue to allow this person to steal space from me anymore. And I think I'm going to be a little bit more forward about my respective friend group and just tell them how I feel about this person and what I think is happening. And yeah, I think I'm going to stand up for myself.
I think you should, because there are a couple of possibilities there, like if you point out this behavior, it's entirely possible that you'll have friends who weren't noticing it because it wasn't happening to them. And once it's pointed out, then they can go, oh, okay, well, yeah, that sucks. And we should address that. Right. Or um, they'll see it and, maybe there is some kind of more diplomatic solution. Maybe they're seeing something you're not. Maybe they have some other way for this to be resolved, or maybe they'll see it and not care, and then they fucking suck too, and you
Right.
don't have to waste any more time on them. So I think it can only be good,
Yeah.
really.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. I spent a lot of time mulling it over. And like I said, being sad, having that, what do the kids say? FOMO, right? I missed out, and
Oh yeah.
it's my own fault. I thought initially I was making the right move by not letting that person occupy my brain, but they still did anyway. So, no, I agree. I think that only a positive thing can come out of it. It might be a bittersweet positive, but where I stand right now, I would like to believe that these people in my life are just being naive to it and just don't realize that it's happening. And I could see that because this person is extremely manipulative and they are using these tactics in order to gain the trust of all these people. And so, anyway, so that's my life. So I didn't do anything. I stayed home. I stayed home and it was boring. So you had a more exciting time than I did.
Wow. I did not see that coming. So okay,
Yeah.
well, yikes. Apparently our lives are very, very boring, but we're all working on it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So we're
you've
we're
got some
getting there.
exciting at least professionally, I'm sure we have some exciting things coming up. So
Yes,
that's something, right?
exactly. That is yeah, look, sounds like Nate had a better weekend than either of us. He watched Star Trek and he ate a pork roast. So that's always a good time.
That's win-win. Yeah.
I didn't even do that. I think I ate terribly all weekend, right? I didn't take very good care of myself, and now it's Monday. Oh, I'm sorry, it's Wednesday. My bad. I
Right.
probably didn't take care of myself Monday or Tuesday either. So
It's it's a day. That much we know.
it's some day and time on this big watery rock, that's for sure. But I did find out something that I wanted to update everybody on. Remember Madman Mike, the time traveler?
Yeah.
He is not dead.
I thought that okay. I mean, I didn't think he was dead. I thought that we had kind of poked some holes in that previously, but good. So you have confirmation
I
though.
confirmed. Yes, he is not dead. He did reactivate his Facebook. So
Okay.
he is back online again. And nothing new there in that regard. He doesn't really said anything new, but he is alive. So wanted to give that update to everybody. I know you guys
Great.
are losing sleep over that one. So,
No, I totally was. Yeah. Boy, it's been a rough couple of weeks.
so, but good news, like you said, professionally, I have been doing a ton of stuff. Um, I am partnering up with a couple of different artists on a couple of projects. I myself am not artistically inclined, but for whatever reason, people keep wanting to pull me into their artistic ventures, and that's fine, right? I will give all the moral support that I can, or whatever it is that you want from me. So I'm not going to say the details, but I will tell you this: Pogs and comic books.
Remember Alf? He's back in pod form.
So there's a little teaser for you. So that's super exciting. I can't wait to kind of go over some more of that when details come out. And the one of the new shows that I've been working on for the on Wednesdays we talk weird family should be coming out within the next 2 weeks. So that's a big one. So you guys will have a
Nice.
new show to listen to weekly here It's going to be called Beasts and Beyond, where we talk about specifically different creatures, and those creatures, span, any as long as there's lore there, we talk about it. So as folklore and cryptids and aliens and super neat. I'm excited for it. I've recorded with pretty much everybody so far. I think it's ready to roll. And then I've been recording episodes for the other shows that I'm not ready to talk about just yet, but they are coming. So that's all I've been doing. I have been recording every single day since the beginning of January. So
Wow.
I'm tired.
You gotta relax and treat yourself to a fetish show.
I know, right? Maybe I'll throw one at home or something. I'll do the fetish show at home.
There you go. That's the DIY spirit that gets podcasts like this made in the first place.
At home fetish shows. Then I can invite whoever I want, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's basically, that's everything that I've been working on. I've decided there's a new segment here. There's a new segment on Wednesdays We Talk Weird. I'm going to give you guys homework every episode. And I know that sounds really intimidating. It's not. I promise it's good. So your homework this week is to share this show. Share it with somebody. Share it with your grandma. I don't care. Share it with somebody. Share it out on your social media. It's free. It costs you absolutely nothing to share the show, and it helps tremendously. So that's your homework this week. Share the show. Next week, it'll be something different. And when you share the show, what do you get? I, I love you, I guess. That's good, right? That's worth something. So you get my sincere love and gratitude, and that's really all I can promise. So that's good enough.
For every person who shares this show, if I meet you in person, I will give you a free high five.
A free high five. Wow.
Free high five. Normally, if I'm at an appearance, high fives start at like $20.
Yeah, I know.
Minimum.
I worked beside you at a table. I was like, damn, this dude's charging for high fives.
That's just the business,
You got to do what you got to do, man. You got to make money off of what you do. So there you go. Okay, Tobias is offering you free high fives. I'm offering to be your fantasy Valentine, I guess. You will just.
Well, I feel like yours is worth a little more.
Okay, sure. Yeah, we'll go with that. Whatever it is you want that costs me virtually nothing, you can have. Because guess what? It costs you virtually nothing to share this episode. So I think that's fair. So there's that. Also, your reminder to make sure that you're booking your hotel rooms and getting your tickets to the Frogman Festival is coming up March 2nd at the Oasis Convention Center in Loveland, Ohio. Be there or whatever. And I will, in place of Tobias, give you your high five if you shared the show. So
true. You are an official licensee stand-in who can give high fives on my behalf. So
yeah, I will do that.
There's no issue with there. That's totally fine.
So we will make this work. Anyway, you want to talk about some news?
Sure. Actually, real quick though, before we do,
sure.
I do want to remind people that I'm going to be down in Alton, Illinois for Dead of Winter. So that's going to be at the beautiful haunted Mineral Springs Hotel in lovely Alton, Illinois, this Saturday, February 10th. This is one of those that I go to because it's always fun. Any event that Troy Taylor puts on, I will be there if assuming that I'm invited. But this one's great. It's a charity event, and so it's free with a non-perishable food donation. Everything goes towards a good cause. This is one that I really love doing because I don't do a lot of charitable events. And I don't know if that's because there aren't that many in the paranormal sphere, but I feel like I don't see a lot, and so it's nice to be able to donate my time to something that actually matters, right? Something that's a good cause helping people. So if you get a chance, if you're in the neighborhood of Alton, Illinois this weekend, definitely come check it out.
It always looks like it's a good time. You usually go to that one, don't you?
Almost always, yeah. We started going to Haunted America first, and I want to say that was in like, God, I don't know, 2017, 2018, and then we started going to Dead of Winter soon after that, and then we try to hit both whenever possible. And I think last year was probably the first year in like the last 3 or 4 where we didn't make it to both. But this year we will, because yes, we will be at, or I will be at Dead of Winter. Actually, Emily's not going, but I will be there if that's enough. Otherwise, we'll both be at Haunted America in June, and I don't remember the dates on that, but June is pretty far off. So there's lots of time for me to actually remember when that is and then share it later.
Sure. One step at a time. Um,
Right.
very cool. Well, you guys can cash in on your high five there. So just
True.
saying.
Yes.
I mean, it's worth it to just at least go get your high five. Again, $20 usually, you guys. It's a good deal.
I will bring extra hand sanitizer.
The extra strength kind. It'll burn your skin right off.
Right. It's literally just wild turkey.
That's, you know what? That's not a bad way to go though. Awesome. Well, I do have a couple of news pieces here. Um Nothing about death this time. I decided there was a potential death story. I decided to omit it just to give you guys a break from the craziness. Let's have a good time here. So I can either start with the serious piece, or I can just start with the absolute balls to the wall crazy shit that I came across. What do you prefer, Tobias?
I think you should go weird thing. Well, hold on. Like, how weird is it?
I got three different pieces here. One you already know, I sent it to you, right? That's the serious piece, and then
That
the
should be
other.
last.
Okay, we'll save that for last. Okay, then I
Yeah.
know how I'm gonna go about this.
Okay.
So this one I included more because I just wanted to make it a talking point for the episode. I thought it'd be neat. Fittingly so, a company known by the name of Talker Research conducted a study, and they concluded that 1 in 3 Americans believe that aliens live among us. First of all, I've said this before with these studies, okay? I like to bring these up from time to time as to what people believe. Nobody ever asks me, ever, what I think, right? And, I should be one of the people that you ask. Tobias, how do you feel about? You ever been asked about your opinions on aliens for a research study?
I have not, nor has anybody that I know. And that's one of the things that's often brought up when people mention these studies is the methodology behind them,
Yeah.
right? Like who's being asked, how are these studies ensuring that they're getting like a representative cross section of the population? And so I don't know. I mean, if it's a reputable study, that should be explained in the actual like published study itself.
Sure.
But it is a difficulty, and it's one that is noted even amongst research scientists who conduct the like that kind of research. Is that, hey, it's very, very difficult to actually conduct one of these and be sure that you've got like a representative sampling, because
Mhm.
I don't know, nobody, as far as we know, nobody's ever actually been asked any of these fucking
Right.
questions, because I've never met anybody.
Never. Right. And as far as we know, this could have been like a poll on their Twitter, right? And that's where they got the poll from. It says that they took their sampling pool was about 1,000 people.
Hmm.
Doesn't necessarily, they weren't stopping people on the street. It doesn't seem like they don't really answer that. But I guess I really wanted to more get into, I wanted to notate the fact that, again, I've never been asked these questions, and I agree. I don't know anybody that has. But 1 in 3 people, that's a lot of people that think that aliens are here right now living amongst us.
What does
Uh,
that mean, living amongst us? Like living underground beneath us, living in the skies above us, like living next door? I don't. I don't
All of
understand.
those things. So a good chunk of the people answered, probably jokingly that they believe that their boss could be some type of alien. But then you had the people that say that they believe that some politicians could be some type of alien, and we've heard that before.
Oh, I love
Um,
a good reptilians conspiracy.
you know what do you think? Do you think that aliens live here?
I don't fucking know.
Well,
What?
sure.
What?
I'm sure you got an opinion on it.
I mean, what? We had to define aliens, and then we got to define live, and then we got to define here. You know, like what? I don't know. Like, what do you mean by aliens? Like, and by live, like, what do you like full time? Are they from here? Or are they from somewhere else? What does here mean? Like, I don't think my boss is an alien. I think that's some dumb shit joke that some fucking human resources drone probably made because that's the limit of their fucking humor. You know.
I agree with that part. Okay, let's look at what about in like they live, right? Do you think that there are some people that are aliens that are walking around and living in our society and partaking in our society?
I mean, that's an interesting idea. I'm going to say I don't believe that, and here's why. Because I don't believe in anything, and not in like a nihilistic way. You know what I mean? Like I'm not one of the fucking Germans from the Big Lebowski or something. Um, it's more like belief. It's not particularly helpful in what we do, right? And so
Sure.
I try not to invest belief in any unproven subject because that has a tendency to bias your findings. You know what I mean? So, like, if you believe that aliens are extraterrestrials, then every UFO is going to become an alien spaceship, and I don't think that that's a useful way to go about it. Um, and so I think that it's likely based on the evidence that there are aliens disguised as human beings living amongst us. Absolutely not, because I haven't seen any good evidence. I would be open to evidence, and I think that would be really interesting. So if anybody has any good evidence, email me at info@singularfortean.com with your evidence that there are aliens posing as humans living amongst us, and I will check it out.
I mean, maybe your neighbor's an alien. You never know.
Maybe. I would
Um,
love that.
yeah, I would too. And personally, I don't think that that is the case. I think that there's a potential that maybe there are. We have maybe had people living. I'm sorry, aliens living amongst people for like case studies or short periods of time, or you've got instances like Indrid Cold, who just looks like a person, right? So he could very easily be, going to your local McDonald's or whatever. But I don't think that in any type of large capacity. Why would anybody like actively I don't even want to actively live here. So
Right.
I
Well,
can't
that's
imagine,
the
you know.
thing too. Like you do have cases like you mentioned, where there are some saucer occupants that appear human-like. But again, there's no evidence that they're doing anything other than potentially appearing in a way that is reflective of our expectations, or maybe in a way that we would be the most comfortable with. There's no good evidence that I've seen that would suppose that they're actually using that to live amongst us. So
Yeah, that was my thought too. So I don't buy that 1 in 3 people actively believe this, to be honest with you. You and I are, I guess, 1 and 2. I suppose if Nate believes that they live amongst us, then, our personal men in black, then
he would
maybe it checks
know.
out.
I mean,
Yeah, right. I mean, maybe it checks out. So maybe the math does math. I don't know. Um, anyway, so I just wanted to bring that one up. And then let's get just totally fucking out there. You're gonna love this. I hope you're gonna love this. I love this. So-
well, now you've raised my expectations so high that
oh,
I
it's
I just
no,
don't know.
it'll meet the bar. I promise. I saw this headline and I just couldn't not include it here. Okay. Here we go. New Jersey home vandalized by pepperoni prankster. Okay.
What?
It gets better. I promise. So this happened in Manville, New Jersey. A woman walked out, to her front door, and to discover that there were pepperoni pieces all over the place, all over her porch, strategically placed all the way down the steps of the porch. There were 4 lone slices on the hood of her car and the trunk of her car. And of course, she was concerned, right, about the damage pepperoni could cause to the paint of her car. Thankfully, there was no issue there. Um, However, she did say, and I quote, this is important, who goes around with 2 loaves of pepperoni in the middle of the night and cuts it up into slices and throws it on people's property?
I
And
feel like this could be part of a romantic comedy. Like, was she meant to follow the trail of pepperoni to this, like to her secret admirer or something?
That that's a good question. The local media there in Manville, New Jersey, has absolutely fucking ran with this story, and they have done an amazing job at curating this. So, upon investigating, the mystery meat, they did reach out to a local pizza parlor owner, who said, in an attempt to identify the meat, said it's certainly of the family of pepperoni. And he would
Wow.
know because he's
Yeah.
a pizza parlor owner. And then, in regards to the vandalism itself, the pizza parlor owner did say that as an Italian, it hurts the heart.
That's a waste of quality cured meats, like you can't just.
Yeah, it hurts the heart.
Yeah.
Um, so anyway, now the woman is saying, of course, she was pissed, right? Initially, she was not. Nobody's happy about their home being vandalized, but it's so out there. Nobody else's home has been targeted yet by the pepperoni prankster, but she has now gone like viral. Like this has gone viral on the internet. It has changed her life. She's saying that she's getting recognized at the grocery store. What a thing to be known for.
Right.
You know? And I just couldn't hold back on sharing this with everybody who may not have heard about it, because I agree. Who does that? Who takes all these loaves of pepperoni, just sit there cutting them up and throwing them on people's property? Um,
It's just one person too. So
yeah,
this seems targeted,
yeah, oh yeah,
and it's
definitely
not
targeted.
terribly destructive, which again makes me wonder if it wasn't seen as something of a romantic gesture. I think that there is some pepperoni paramour out there pining for this Jersey woman, trying to win her heart with delicious salted and cured meats.
I mean, I think that had it been cheese, they would have already been married.
I think so.
So maybe next time he should try some mozzarella alongside his pepperoni.
You got to
And
find a good cheese pairing, get some wine involved. Yeah.
right. I mean, and just see where it goes. I wonder if this person is ever going to come forward because the story got so big. Um, I
I
hope that they
wouldn't.
do. You wouldn't?
Fuck no. Are you sure? If this lady is getting recognized at the grocery store, what do you think's going to happen to the pepperoni prankster?
They're gonna want to know where he buys his meats, and then he's gonna help the local
Right.
meat market. I don't know. It's so bizarre. So you just take it to your grave, and on your deathbed, you're like, I was the pepperoni prankster.
That's how you do it. Yes. Drop that bombshell on your grandkids.
That's I'm gonna admit to it when I die. That's what's nobody's gonna know it's not me.
Oh yeah, no, you should just say whatever you want. Who cares? Say that you were in the fucking Patterson Gimlin footage, whatever.
Oh yeah, that's a good. Yeah, I will. I'll drop that when I die, and then my grandkids will go on to tell everybody that my grandma was Patty. Um,
Right.
it'll be
She's
great.
like, well, I didn't shave my legs for like 2 weeks, and these guys recorded me in the fucking forest. What do you want?
I was notorious for my hairy titties. you know, that's the great thing about dying. You can make your own story at that
And
point.
people have to believe you.
They have
Doesn't
to.
matter
Yeah.
what you say.
Yeah. They're not going to be like, no, that didn't happen while you're dying. What an asshole,
Right?
But yeah, I had to share this. I told you it was worth it. It meets the bar.
It's fun. It's definitely fun.
We'll see if he strikes again. I'm invested in the story. I gotta know if there's ever any follow up or anything. I mean, maybe now she will be the victim of multiple processed food items, right? Going
That's the
forward.
other thing, though. Like, are we going to get copycat pranksters? You know, is
Oh yeah.
somebody going to show up and just layer her house in ground sausage? Who knows?
She's just opens up her window one day, ground sausage just floods in.
That's,
Oh.
that would be what I'm worried about. Yes,
Yes, don't harm this woman.
right. Just
You
use your
know,
put your pizza toppings where they belong on a pizza.
on a pizza. Yeah.
Keep them out of her yard.
Yeah. So there's that. But on a serious note, let's talk about UFOs. Huh? That's something that we talk about here.
Sometimes, yeah.
This was an interesting story. I like this because here's what I hear all the time. It gets really annoying to me. Why are UFO sightings only happening in America? Well, they're not. Now, granted, this one is America's cousin, but still, I think it's important. I think the nature of it is important. So, on January 19th, four separate pilots ended up spotting UFOs over Canada in different areas around Canada. And we were kind of made privy to this because of the conversations that they were having about these objects that was caught on air traffic control. So what we know they had been seeing at least was happening somewhere between 4 a.m. and 6 a.m. There seemed to be six orbs that were flying erratically, sometimes side to side, sometimes in a triangular formation. The orbs were in higher they were higher up than the planes were, so they were estimating about maybe 100,000 feet up in the air. And they were concerned. They were kind of freaking out. They'd never seen anything like this. They weren't satellites, all those fun quotes. Now, Nav Canada did alert the Canadian Air Defense to these objects. And of course, the Canadian Air Defense retorts back with, we're not really interested in things that aren't a direct threat, that aren't directly related to the military. So they weren't going to investigate it. Some people have speculated that, okay, you know what? I'm not going to say some people. It's my show. Mick West, known skeptic.
you,
um,
you said that like it was a dirty word, like you were just barely holding back.
I was barely holding back. I was like, do I do this? You know what? Now I'll do this. Listen, I'll give Mick West some credit. I will come over. Sometimes he is right. Sometimes he reaches so hard, I think it hurt. I think it hurts. He sprained something. But in this case, I think he hurt himself. Mick West says that this was just Starlink, and that's what the pilots were seeing. And
Yeah.
I disagree. I think that the pilots would know. Well, he said it was like a reflection coming off of Starlink, but I still disagree with
That was an
his.
explanation given by one of the pilots. Like, because I after you sent that to me, and of course I love UFOs, so of course I went, I listened to all of the audio,
Mhm.
and one of the pilots was saying that he thought maybe it was sunlight reflecting off of a satellite or something, and
Right.
making it seem extra bright, because the sighting itself was at nighttime.
Yeah.
um, but what happens and why we can see, well, for instance, why the space station is so damn bright. It's not because these are like self-illuminating objects. We don't put fucking lights on satellites so we can see them. It's because there's light that reflects off of them, and so even if it's nighttime here, these objects in space can get hit with sunlight, and then that'll be
Right.
visible
The
to
sun
us.
doesn't go away just because we can't see it.
Right? It doesn't. What?
I know, right?
What? But yeah. So that's what he thought maybe it could be.
Mhm.
But at the same time, he freely admitted, like, I don't know if that's really what it is. I mean, this is my best guess. Just whatever. And the movement of the objects is what gives me pause when it comes to that explanation, because you have the like multiple pilots describing weird formations and movements
Right.
that aren't something that would be expected or even possible for a satellite to perform. They talk about the objects forming into diamonds, like
Mhm.
diamond formations or triangle formations. And I guess it's possible if the sun is only reflecting off of certain of these satellites at certain times for it to seem like maybe they're moving, but what you're really seeing is just different satellites in different positions, alternating, uh, reflecting the sunlight. But at the same time, like, is that a better explanation? I don't think so.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think so either. I don't like it, and I don't agree with it. So, I don't know. I want it to be UFOs. Obviously, I have a bias, right? I want it to be aliens. So that's therefore, because there isn't a dead ringer explanation, I'm automatically going to lean towards, well, that explanation has its faults also, which you know. Like I said, is bias, and I recognize that. But I think that this one is very exciting. When you dig into it a little bit further, we do find that there were actually some um, American pilots who may have seen the same thing, but we don't have it as well documented as this. And then, since this has come out, we've had other Canadian pilots kind of come forward with their own UFO reports, right? Oh, I've seen that before, just not this one, right? I think that there is something to be said for these pilots who frequently take to the skies and, are familiar with satellites and seeing that type of reflective phenomena, out there. The fact that it was so high up could lead some credence to the satellite reflection story. Or, again, it's not like these are maneuvers and things that we haven't seen in UFO lore. So I could take it either way, but I think it's a really neat story, and I think that it's not really being talked about enough.
Oh, totally. I mean, now that you sent it to me, I will. I'm going to do some digging of my own, and I'm sure I'll write something up for the Singular Fortean Society. But yeah, I feel like these cases they don't get as much attention as I feel like they deserve. Now, I've covered several similar Canadian sightings over the past few years, because what happens is, unlike in this country, if a Canadian pilot sees something weird, uh, they obviously they'll radio it into to air traffic control. But then there's something that gets filed that's called a service report. And service stands for Communications Instructions Reporting Vital Intelligence Sightings. And it's generally used to refer to all unidentifiable, suspicious, or hostile land, air, or seaborne traffic which, because of its nature, course, or actions, must be considered a threat to the security of the U.S. or Canada.
Hmm.
And when these service reports get filed, that's when we find out about this stuff, um, and and it's valuable. It's valuable info, and it's nice that they have that. And you see these come out of Canada with a frequency that you just don't see down here. And I think it's an issue of uh, reporting more than anything, just straight up. I don't think pilots see stuff less down here. Now we get good pilot sightings down here too,
Yeah,
but we don't generally get them documented as well as we get out of Canada.
yeah,
Um, so but yeah, it's they get ignored, because I don't know, fucking Jeremy Corbell isn't weaponizing his curiosity about them or whatever, and it's a damn shame. You
yeah,
get all of them, like the military hocus pocus that people want to focus on right now for hashtag disclosure, and these remarkable UFO sightings kind of just get thrown by the wayside because they're not as sexy as what's being sold generally, and that's too bad because
yeah.
these are the good classic good like just the good old fashioned classic UFO sightings,
Hmm.
with actual good reporting, good witnesses. Like you can get a whole transcript of everything that all of these pilots and like the air traffic controllers, of which there were at least a couple because this happened over multiple shifts, right? Like it's all out there, and you can see all of it.
Yeah.
Like there's none of that obfuscation that comes with the military sightings, where it kind of comes out in dribs and drabs, and we never get to see the whole fucking video of everything. And there's always something that people can't fucking talk about. There's always little information, little secrets that people can't share. Well, none of that shit exists in this. This is just a good UFO sighting. And
Yeah.
if you care about UFOs, you should care about this.
Yeah, I agree. It's, um the way it's documented is very impressive, and it's something that we should be taking on. We should be mimicking, after, because it is so well documented. Look, is the conclusion at the end of the day with this, we don't fucking know what it is? Yeah, that is it. However, you don't usually get a full on report like this, with these types of sightings. And if we could have these full on reports, I mean, maybe we could research it a little bit easier if we had all of the information that is available. And I feel like, just going over this one case here, they absolutely delivered on all of the information that was available at the time. you know
Oh yeah.
so no, I agree. It's a very fun story. I think it's an instant classic, but that's me. And I would hate for this to just be overlooked for Jeremy Corbell's and whatever the fuck else is going on nowadays, for the Grushes of the world or whatever.
Right.
You know,
People are probably going to get upset. I didn't. That's just the first name that popped into my mind, because he does a lot of the military UFO stuff that never seems to go anywhere.
I think you'd be surprised how many people have that opinion that listen to the show. So I wouldn't feel too
I
bad.
don't know him personally. He might be super nice. We probably have some friends in common. Whatever.
Sure. Well, and right, let me just say, I wasn't trying to shit all over Mick West either. I think I kind of,
He
said
seems nice too.
he does seem nice.
Most people seem nice.
Yes, he seems like a nice guy. Like I said, I think that he is on the opposite spectrum, where you have these extreme believers, right, that believe in everything. And then you have people like Mick West, who absolutely fucking will not believe in anything. Doesn't matter what you present him, right? That's just his go to. Again, I think he does debunk a lot of bullshit, and I appreciate the
Mhm.
hell out of him for it. But I do think that he also reaches. But that, again, that's his thing. That's what he does, right? Good for him for having a thing. Um,
Sure.
I don't really have a thing, so
Well, I already told you my thing is not believing in anything, but allowing for the possibility of everything.
my thing is that I throw personalized fetish art shows at my house, and I have hairy titties. So that's
I
everybody's got to have a thing.
I was telling people that your thing was edibles and Mothman.
Oh, thank God. That's what I want to be known for. I do drugs and see the Mothman.
Right? That's just a normal Saturday afternoon here,
you
like there's
know,
nothing wrong with that.
right? So
We
who the
don't,
fuck am I to judge Mick
yeah.
West? But yeah, no, I love this. I wanted to share it. I hope you do a write up. If you um do it, I'll share it, because I want people to see it. I want people to know. I want people
Sure.
to You can listen to the audio. That's another thing. You
Yeah.
personally, listener, can go listen to this audio. It's on YouTube. I will put a link in the description. And decide for yourself, what if you think that it's satellite reflections, or if you think that it's UFOs. So anyway, do you have any news to share?
Oh boy. Well, I guess kind of in the vein of UFOs, I had a report sent to me. It was actually summer of last year. So what I usually do is, if somebody sends a sighting report to us directly, is I will try to contact them, and if they don't respond, then I'll hold on to their contact info for a period of some months. Usually around 6-ish months, right? Just in case they do end up ever following up. Like, I don't want to jump the gun and throw something out there and then have them contact me a couple weeks later. Like, what the fuck, right?
Sure.
And so this person had sent us this story back in July 26th of 2023. Excuse me. And this was in email, and they wrote to us to say that between the years 2003 and 2013, and I didn't take note of this, so I can't be sure when this happened, most of these people are not professional writers. So I clean up the language some, but I try not to alter it too much because I want it to be as authentic as possible. So just know that whenever I'm reading these stories. So anyway, they said I was sleeping, but then was in a field in a nearby town. This was a large marshy area with electrical towers. This this orb was an intelligent being and was talking with me via telepathy. I too had the experience of them telling me that I was not alone in this world. We discussed religion. I am a Christian and spoke to this orb. It was a glowing orange yellow color about my belief in Jesus. I told it the entire story of Jesus, and it wept when it learned of the crucifixion. I knew that I couldn't tell anyone about this encounter as I felt protective of this thing. As we spoke, it was getting close to sunrise. I woke up then. Okay, so there's a lot going on in this. It's a relatively short story, but there is a lot to unpack here, right?
Yeah.
Um, so like first and foremost to me, obviously, is like the last sentence that says "I woke up then." The actual subject line of this email was, "I too have had an experience with these orbs. Mine was what I thought was a dream, but maybe not." And so, if you followed ufology for any amount of time, this shouldn't be that unusual of a sighting, because this kind of stuff happens a lot. And so there are different hypotheses as to what might be behind it. Of course, there are going to be people who are like, well, it's just a dream. It's meaningless. Who cares? There are going to be people who are like, oh, well, you must have been taken out of your bed and taken to this field to communicate with this orb and then like returned at some point. There are going to be people who say, oh, well, you traveled astrally to this field and, it was your spirit consciousness that was communicating with it out in some field somewhere. And then, there might be people to say, okay, no, it was a dream, but you were being visited in the dream by this immaterial consciousness being. And so it still has some validity as an otherworldly sighting. Now, I don't really fall into any one of those categories specifically because I try to be open-minded. But it could be any of them. Who fucking knows? The reality of this situation was I replied to them and they never got back to me. So I was never able to actually interview them or do any of the normal stuff that I like to do when I'm actually able to investigate one of these sightings, right? But it does have some interesting connections or similarities rather with other sightings. So I think that what this witness was referring to when they say that they too had the experience of the orb telling them that they were not alone in the world, I think they were referring to Christopher Bledsoe. So Christopher Bledsoe is a North Carolina man who I wrote an article about last year, who said that he had had a series of encounters with seemingly intelligent glowing orbs, and that he was able to summon them using prayer. Like he claims that he can pray and these things will show up.
Hmm.
And so his experience had started back in 2007 when he was on this fishing trip, but he didn't really start sharing them until like 2012 because I guess, and this of course is really common, when he first started sharing them, people made fun of him and his family. So he was like, well, fuck this. Right. But anyway, in 2012, he said he was visited by this comforting being who told him he was not alone. And the being, though, didn't take the form of an orb. He said it took the form of a beautiful, glowing woman floating like 3 feet off of the ground. And so he says this woman shows up. She's glowing. She's wearing a white dress. She's super beautiful. And she looks at him and she says, "You know why I am here. If you do this, I will always be with you and help you. I will help you with witnesses." So pretty comforting, I guess. And the overall story, as reported by this witness, it has similarity to a bunch of other orb cases that we have received directly here. There are a series of orb sightings by a guy in Indiana that I have spoken to and actually worked fairly closely with. I won't name him. He prefers to be anonymous, but I communicate with him on social media a lot. He's a real guy. Um, and then in 2022, this was in my last book, the Singing Before the Society's Yuletide Guide to High Strangeness. I talked to Shane Taylor, who had this encounter with a multitude of seemingly friendly orange orbs on Christmas Eve, 2014. And those were pretty similar to what this person was describing as well. So anyway, that was a huge information download, but it's been on my mind because it's a weird fucking story and it's interesting. And it has religious elements, which people forget. Religious elements used to come up in ufology all the fucking time,
Oh
like
yeah.
constantly.
Oh yeah. There's a reason why there's so many UFO cults out there. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
it's a big thing. No, I do find that interesting. Man, I love a good talking orb story. I'll tell you. I do.
Right.
I love when they talk, when they're sentient. That is just so fucking fascinating to me. Because you get so many people that are like, "Oh, what are these weird orange orbs?" And some people have their experiences. Sometimes they're portals, right? Shit comes out of them. And sometimes they talk to you, and sometimes they're just zipping around, and we don't really know what they are. But yeah, I agree. That's a very strange encounter. It's too bad they didn't you weren't able to elaborate on the information a bit and get a little bit more.
That shit
Um,
happens all the time, though.
it does.
People reach out and they share their story, and then I never hear from them again. Well,
Yeah.
when I publish these too, I always republish them. Like if you go to our website, you'll see that I'll have some news articles, and they'll say reports from the void, and then usually just the subject line of the email. So like this one is reports from the void. I too have had an experience with these orbs, and so there's always a disclaimer at the beginning of these articles too, explaining that like I was not able to investigate this up to my standards. So I'm just sharing it to share it so it gets out there. But understand that I am not actually like espousing any belief or proposing any specific validity or authenticity to this story because I was not able to interview this person.
Yeah.
Like that's important, but it's also, as Fordians, right? Like we should be giving all the information we have as much as possible. So even
Oh
if it
yeah.
is some one-off story, just as long as we're sharing it in context, I think it's valuable.
Yeah, it's like behind the scenes, right?
Oh
Because
yeah.
let me ask you, what percentage of the reports that you get do you feel like are these types of reports?
Oh, like 3/4 of them.
I'd say most of them. Yeah.
Yeah.
It happens all the time. And you get them and you get so excited, right? Especially stories like that, right? They're
Yeah.
just ultra strange and you're like, "Oh man, I can't wait to break open this one or, deep dive this one." And then you just can't. But it is neat. And I personally I agree. I can't say whether or not I believe, what those people are saying. I'm not going to say that I don't believe them. I don't know. I don't know, but they sure are fun to share and speculate on and talk about. And maybe you sharing the report, um, maybe that person reads your website, right? I'd imagine they do if they're reporting to you, and maybe they go, "Oh my god, that's my report." I don't know. Maybe they just like me. I'll read a text message and I'll never respond to it, and it's like 3 weeks later, right? And maybe they're like, "Oh shit, I should probably get back to that guy." Has that ever happened? Have you ever had somebody double back and report back
That
to you?
happened once.
Hey,
And the person, I think they were kind of upset about it a little bit, but I don't really know why because like I made every effort to like get a hold of them.
oh,
But well, with this one specifically, it honestly ended up working out. Like I can't remember like the exact details of it, but yeah, I ended up working with the guy a little bit after that and got some more details, and then was able to write like a pretty good article about it. It was certainly much more informed than it would have been otherwise, and we hashed everything out. I think he was kind of protective of his story, which, by the way,
yeah,
like if you don't ever want anybody to hear your story, that's fine, but don't tell it. You know what I mean? Like I it just kind of is what it is. Like I have no problem with people being anonymous, all of that kind of stuff. But these stories, these encounters, these experiences need to be shared.
yeah,
And so If you never, ever, ever want anybody to hear them, then keep it to yourself, I guess. Because if you send it to me, I will preserve your identity
Hmm.
to whatever your comfort level is. But people are going to hear about it. They're going to hear the actual experience. Whether or not they can actually identify it or identify you through it is up to you. But yeah, I think we have an obligation to share these stories once we get them. Now this person, when when I tried to email them, let me double check. But yeah, okay, yeah. So this was one where they reached out through the website and they provided an email address, and I tried to email them back at that address, and I got this weird automated response saying that the email address provided could not be found. So I actually tried a couple different spellings of their email address to see if maybe there was just some mistake they made.
Sure.
And it bounced back every time. And so maybe they will see it and maybe they will reach out and be like, oh my God, oh, I accidentally typed in the wrong email address or something. So I'm glad I saw this. And then, we'll hear more out of them, but who knows?
Yeah, I think that I hope they do. I hope they elaborate on it a little bit more. I agree with you about preserving stories. Let me tell you guys, I've had experiencers die, and it sucks.
Yeah.
It is really unfortunate. You think about all the stuff that you didn't talk about with them. Especially ones that I have experiences that I've gotten close with, and when you get that close to them, it's definitely a blessing and a curse because you are friends with them and you don't want them to think that you don't believe their story. But at the same time, because you're friends with them, you imagine that you can ask them anything, and then you might sit on it, and then you might wait. Or I've had people that have died in the community that I never reached out to. And I regret not reaching out to them, thinking that I had time to do so. That's the sad reality of being human, is that eventually we die. And if you don't get your story out there in its entirety, then it dies with you. And we need less of that, especially in the day and age of the internet, where we can have everything literally live on forever.
Oh yeah. No, I've definitely had people who have reached out to me because they were older. And well, one guy literally just said, hey, I just wanted to tell you this story before I died. And I was like, well, shit, that's super sad, but I'm glad you did.
Right. Yeah, it's worth preserving. Talk to your parents, your elders. Maybe you are an elder yourself and you have a story to get out there. Get these experiences out there. We need them. In order to push this further. Is it going to be the holy grail of stories? Well, shit, man, I don't know. It might be. It might not be. But either way, if it's secret, it'll never be anything but that. So anyway, thanks for sharing your orb lady story. I hope she does reach out, and maybe we'll get an update on it in the future.
I will definitely let you know.
For sure. So I wanted to do something a little bit different. With this episode. This one's kind of more of a roundtable discussion rather than facts. As a matter of fact, facts don't live here very often. So I wanted to do an episode talking about kind of our favorite folklore, right? Folklore is interesting. When you are talking about Fortean topics, there is this very thin line between what is folklore and what is fact.
90% of it is folklore,
90% of it is folklore. Yes.
which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, exactly. And, like I said, a very thin line. So when you get into these types of topics, listen, if you're not ready to dive into some folklore, you're just not ready. I'm saying that right now. You are in the wrong line of work. Um, you have to. You have to with these stories. You have to work backwards. You have to get to at least the first point in history where this thing, most of the time, I would say most of the time, cryptozoology follows folklore more than anything. And then, well, I guess the paranormal does too. Ufology there can be some spillover there. We definitely have things coming from the sky in folklore. But I
Well,
would say I feel like I mostly see this in cryptozoology. What do you think? Do you feel like that's accurate?
here's the thing. Folklore is not just something that exists in some far distant past. Folklore is something that we are actively creating all day, every day.
Yes.
And so ufology is folklore. Ufology is currently folklore. There is folklore that is being developed as a part of ufology right now, as we speak on fucking Twitter. Like it is happening. People need to understand that folklore is literally just the whole of oral traditions shared by a particular group of people, culture, or subculture.
Yeah.
And so that is everything about everything that we do,
Yeah, it is.
because we can't study most of this stuff scientifically in a way that is satisfying,
Mhm.
because it isn't easy to replicate. It's not possible to predict most of the time. And so what we end up with is experiential evidence. We have the experiences of people talking about it, and so there's not much difference between a fairy witness in 16th century Ireland and a UFO witness in 21st century United States. Because at the end of the day, both of them have a fucking story about weird lights they saw. Both of them are folklore.
I think that's an interesting take on it. I suppose you're right. I would say that the difference between folklore and fact is most of the time critical thinking, which is not something that you can really teach. It's kind of something that's up on a it's still personal either way you look at it, right? So what may be considered folklore and outlandish and not real to one person may be perceived as 100% reality to another person. Folklore is huge. Folklore is a massive topic that encompasses, well, like you said, basically everything ever that we do and talk
Yeah, I mean,
about.
something isn't
Um,
necessarily fake because it falls into the realm of folklore. That's not what folklore means.
right.
Folklore is just a traditional, and traditional in the anthropological sense. A traditional means of transferring knowledge versus a modern means of transferring knowledge. Like a modern means of transferring knowledge is through, say, research and science and schooling, right?
Mhm.
So, like, you go to school to learn biology or something, right? And that would be a modern means of transferring knowledge. Whereas folklore, or a traditional means of transferring knowledge, would be your mom teaching you teaching you her favorite recipes, or your dad showing you how to fix the car or something, right? Like those are
Right.
traditional means of transferring knowledge. And so that's a lot of, it's not the entirety, but that's a big portion of what folklore is. And I think it's a big portion of what folklore is, in the sense that we use it when it intersects with paranormal studies,
Yeah.
and that is just people transferring knowledge through traditional means, because we don't have currently enough study, or the development of such a study for it to be transferred with more modernity. Like, we don't have, you can't go to college for fucking UFOs. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it's just we're not there yet.
Yeah, not yet. Um, hopefully soon. Yeah, no, I absolutely. And honestly, some of it, folklore is seen as, even though yes, I agree, we are creating folklore as we write history. But like as it stands today, right now, most folklore is seen as like really old stories, right? And at the end of the day, honestly, the solution is to throw our hands up and go, I don't fucking know if that happened. I wasn't there. I was fucking 200 years ago, 500 years ago. We don't know, you know? um, Kind of like with what, a lot of people do with the Bible, right? Or any religion for that matter,
Right.
falls into folklore, even though you have a huge camp of people that take it as fact. Like I said, it's a very personal perception as to how you rule folklore in your life and how you rule those individual stories in your life. I thought it would be fun to kind of take some time and discuss maybe our favorite little bits of folklore. I know there's definitely stories of things that I like and appreciate. Maybe they're fun or they're funny or I just enjoy the story that wouldn't fit anywhere else on this podcast because for the most part, I am trying to pick apart, what could be real, what might not be real, and what's total bullshit, right? That's what we do here normally. Giving, really educated guesses as to what we think is happening with some of this stuff. So, I, like I said, wanted to talk about my favorite pieces of folklore, things that I don't really believe at all exist personally. But man, it'd be really cool if they did. So
Oh, okay.
that's where I'm starting it at. So one thing I wanted to start with, and the whole actually inspiration for this episode, um, is wrapped up into fearsome critters. Tobias, I'm sure you're familiar with what a fearsome critter is.
Oh, sure.
So fearsome critters are things that were created within lumberjack lore primarily. Most of them are some type of cautionary tale. A lot of creatures we find historically are a cautionary tale of some sort. And I wanted to talk about one that I feel like doesn't get enough love, and that is the slide rock bolter. Have you heard of this guy? The slide rock bolter?
Oh, yeah. No, I absolutely have. Yes.
Yes, I fucking love this story. I think it is hilarious, and as much as there's no physical evidence for it, I want to believe that it exists out there. So let me tell you guys about this thing. The slide rock bolter allegedly lives in the mountains of Colorado, but not always. It usually seems to live wherever there are mountains. And what this thing I mean, it is the size of a mountain. It is a giant fish. It's like a type of fish, and it's huge. And what it does is it latches itself onto the side of a mountain, okay? And it has this massive mouth and it has these hooks underneath it that kind of latch on and stays in place. And then when people build real estate at the bottom of the mountain, or even lone tourists or lone lumberjacks, make their appearance, the slide rock bolter will then release its hooks from the mountain, and it will, well, do what it does best and slide down the mountain, leaving its mouth agape and swallowing up everything in its path. And it uses that trajectory that it gets from sliding down to then slide up the next mountain where it latches back on and waits for its next meal, essentially. Um, I think this story is hilarious and fun. I really like it.
It is great. It's a really good example of, I think, the of that kind of folklore too, because folklore encompasses everything from myths to legends to fairy tales,
Yeah.
really. And this is a good example, I think, of a North American fairy tale.
Yeah.
It really is. Because they'll, for instance, and I say specifically when I say fairy tale, I'm referring to one story, and there is one story involving the slide rock bolter that claims a forest ranger who wanted to protect the area under his charge concocted a brilliant plan to take down the monster. He created a dummy filled with gunpowder and fulminate caps, which I believe are the caps that you would use to detonate like dynamite, for
Hmm.
instance. All right. So anyway, the dummy eventually attracted the creature's attention. And when the monster collided with the dummy, it was killed in a massive explosion that flattened most of the nearby town. And of course, while like this particular bolter may have met a gruesome end, its kin allegedly still haunt the Colorado mountains. And so like that is fairy tale esque, right?
Yeah.
Like that's a straight up fairy tale. You have the hero called to action to take out this monster threatening, this area that he cares about. And he is ultimately victorious, albeit at the cost of a sizable portion of the nearby town. And there's nothing not to like about that. Like
Yeah.
it's fascinating from that perspective, from a literary perspective, from an anthropological or a folkloric perspective. I love finding fairy tales that are only like a couple hundred years old. Like there's a lot of them.
Hmm. Oh yeah, there's tons, and I know that when you say fearsome critters, I think most people think of like the squonk, right? It's probably the most popular one.
Hodag.
Um, the hodag,
That's
yep,
a Wisconsin
yep, that's a big one for
tradition.
you guys, yeah, and things like that. These are not creatures that we have any real evidence exist. I suppose that's sometimes not fair to say because, like, I mean, do we have more evidence for Bigfoot than we do a squonk? It just depends on what you consider evidence, right? It's anecdotal.
That's
Um,
fair.
but at the same time, people aren't having modern day squonk sightings. They're not seeing the slide rock bolter. At least I tried to look up the reports of it, right? Modern day. I haven't found any. I was so
And you're
disappointed.
not gonna.
I was so disappointed. I was like, God damn it. All these Facebook groups with all these stories, and there's not one slide rock bolter. Um, you know,
Yeah, right.
but in digging into the again the cautionary side of this, or rather the need for a story like this, it seems to be that the slide rock bolter may have originated from the fact that lumberjacks at the time um were just kind of deforesting areas that legally they weren't supposed to, and then they would blame it on the creature. Because of course when the creature slides down with its mouth open, it takes down all the trees and shit with it. So,
Oh yeah,
and
there
I'm
you
like,
go.
well, I guess that checks out. It's just human greed again.
The
So
perfect crime.
yes.
Like I'll eat like a whole sleeve of Oreos and be like, I don't know, guys, slide rock bolter probably. I don't know what happened.
Came down and ate the whole sleeve.
Right?
That is, yeah, that is a good excuse going forward in life. Keep that in mind, folks. Keep that in your back pocket when you get stopped by the police the next time, and your taillight's out. Right? You're like, I don't know, officer. Slide rock bolter.
Yeah, just shrug and say slide rock bolter. It's free. It's just a get out of jail free card.
And then the cop's like, "Oh, I've heard of this."
He's like, oh yeah, shit, slide rock bolter made me cheat on my taxes.
And that becomes the whole thing. Um, yeah, I mean, I'm fine with this. Bring back the slide rock bolter, because that guy, he lives in my head rent free, and that's okay. So that's a fun one. Which, like I said, there's no basis in reality for this creature to exist at all. Listen, I'm open to have my mind changed. Please send me evidence of the slide rock bolter. But as far as I know, to date, here in 2024, there's nothing substantial about it. Now, on the flip side of that, we do have another one that I wanted to talk about. The Rougarou. You've heard of the Rougarou, I'm sure. It's pretty
Sure,
popular.
yeah.
Uh,
Louisiana's favorite werewolf.
oh yeah. So the Rougarou is definitely growing in popularity. With the increase of popularity for dog man in general. Of course, something like the Rougarou has kind of been resurrected. As a staple in American folktale. And the Rougarou is, of course, half. Well, it's a man that turns into a werewolf. Well, I guess it's not a werewolf unless it is a man, to begin with. Anyway, it's a werewolf. It's America's werewolf, and there's a curse surrounding it. You can be given the Rougarou curse. It is temporary, which is interesting. I don't. There's like different ways that you can break the curse, or you can just kind of wait until it times out. It's gone. My favorite part, though, is of course, in order to escape the Rougarou, I love this. I love this. In order to prevent being attacked by a Rougarou, if you're ever being chased by one, keep pennies on your person, 13 exactly, and drop them on the ground because the Rougarou cannot help but to stop and count each one of those pennies. And the Rougarou Can't count past 12. So, because you have 13, once he gets to 12 and there's one more left, he is just going to lose his shit and have to continue to keep counting it over and over again, giving you plenty of time to get to safety.
Stupid Rougarou. Can't even count to 13.
He's just dumb. Like, what is that?
How? That's so common, though. Not the not being able to count past 12, but
How dumb they are?
the spreading of small objects to stymie supernatural creatures,
Yeah.
that has been used as a folkloric remedy to prevent incursions from everything from witches to vampires to fairies. I mean, it's all over the damn place, like spreading seeds or something similar.
Yeah.
And then whatever it is trying to, get into your house or whatever, has to stop and count this shit instead of actually harassing you.
Yeah.
It's super common. So yeah, it's interesting to see that as part of the Rougarou tradition as well.
Didn't they use that in one of the Leprechaun movies? Like they dumped his pot of gold and he didn't have a choice but to start count. Or no, it was shining shoes. He had to shine the shoes. And the first Leprechaun, he couldn't. He had to shine them. Like that was.
That's the best. Jennifer Aniston was in that.
That was, yeah. I think that was her first movie. Very
Yeah.
young Jennifer Aniston. Classic Leprechaun.
It is.
movie.
It is.
But yeah, it's just a thing, and it's a silly thing, and I think it is. They have all these rules that they have to abide by, and it's like, why? I don't understand. Like you said, with a vampire, they can't come in unless they're invited. Like if I'm a fucking vampire, I'm coming in, and you're not gonna stop me. But apparently not, because something says no, you're not allowed. And I don't know what that something is, but it's there.
There's all kinds of weird rules. And when you get into vampires specifically, at this point, it is so difficult, and I don't blame people for this at all, but it is so difficult to differentiate between what actually arose out of traditional belief systems, like what actually came from shit people actually believed at one time, and what was added later in fiction.
Right.
So when you look at, well, for instance, the movie Nosferatu, that gave us vampires being destroyed by sunlight.
Yep.
Like Count Orlok, they needed a way to defeat him at the end of the movie, and that was a convenient one. And so the sun comes up, poof, he's dead. And ever since, sunlight has destroyed vampires. And so, it's difficult, but that's also, I mean, that's literally just folklore in action too, because after a certain amount of time has passed, that could become so ingrained in the lore surrounding them that's going to be real to people. That's going to be seen as intrinsic to the vampire narrative. So
yeah, it's an ancient game of telephone.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
And people, will add to it or take away or change details, and eventually you get an entirely new being and new story. I agree. The vampire is definitely one of those things where you are going to find similar creatures across different cultures and times that are very different from each other. It is interesting. And then, of course, now we have modern day vampires, which are people, right? And they energy vampires, I think, are the thing now. I don't really know.
That's a thing. I always kind of look a little side-eyed at people when they say they're a vampire or whatever, because I mean, that's cool. I don't know. I do a lot of tabletop role playing. So like I get it in terms of like, pretending like you're something else for a little while.
Sure.
But like leave that at the table. Like nobody thinks you're a vampire. You don't think you're a vampire. That's not real. Like just knock it off. Just stop it.
just stop it. That's the Michael Jordan PSA. Stop it.
Right? Just stop it. Get some help.
Get some help.
Like you're not like you're not, like it's fine. And there's so much of that in this field too. Like, there's so much LARPing. Like,
yes.
LARPing is an acronym for live action role playing, for anybody who doesn't know. And those are the people that you would see, dressing up in like medieval outfits and stuff and fighting each other with foam swords out in the woods. And again, there's nothing wrong with that because they know they're not elves and fairies and shit. It's a fun way to spend an afternoon, I would imagine. I haven't done it. I keep all of my like adventuring like that at the actual table where I can roll dice comfortable, in the comfort of my own home.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's nothing wrong with it. But you see so much of what I can only describe as LARPing in this field as well. Where it's difficult to tell how much people actually believe about the shit that they'll say about themselves. Like, I don't know, dude, maybe you are a wizard or a fucking vampire or whatever you say, or a druid or whatever. Because some of those things are actually based off of very interesting traditions, like being a wizard would be rad. And that's totally a thing that you could try to learn to do through a book. So if somebody is legit trying to do that, like, awesome, like maybe I'll be a wizard someday. But it's just difficult to tell how much people really believe about what they're saying, because so much of it seems like made up bullshit that, people just kind of adopt as their identity for the same reason that some people wear pointy ears and Starfleet uniforms,
Sure. Yeah. I mean, and for the most part, like, I don't really give a shit what people do.
Oh yeah, who
As
cares?
long as you're not negatively affecting other people with what you're doing, right? So if you want to call yourself a vampire, you can. But that hurts your credibility. That affects you. I mean, it comes with consequences.
Yeah, like as long as I don't have to like call you a vampire, or that's not fair. I might call you one. As long as I don't have to believe you are one, we'll get along great.
Right. So that's the difference. I'll call you whatever you want.
Yeah, like
Um,
I'll be polite. I'm not a dick. It's fine.
yeah, I agree. The LARPing in the field is interesting. Well, and it's not even, gosh, it could be the LARPing in the field can be so simple. You got people that'll go out into their backyard and be like, I got a family of big feet that live out here. And their backyard space, like, yeah, maybe they have like an acre of woods and then there's their neighbor's house, right? And the local Target.
Right.
Um, you know, you do have that a lot. It's really unfortunate. Um, anyway, so that the Rougarou.
That was a wonderful digression, though, I have to say.
It was very important. Yeah, the Rougarou is an interesting one. I like beings specifically. I actually like ones that aren't wolves. Anybody that can transform into something else that's not a wolf, I think is like super original, and I'm totally here for it.
Sure.
Um, I have gone on record, and will continue to go on record to say that I don't believe in shapeshifters in any capacity. I just don't. Um,
Whoa.
I I think that if they were real, we would have already found a way to make money off of it. Shit, I know I would empty out all my bank accounts and liquidate all my assets to be able to shapeshift. You kidding me? Dude, I
Yeah, right.
don't care. I don't care if I'd have to be homeless on the street. I'm an animal now. Like, I can rummage through garbage. It's fine. Or whatever the case is. Um, but I do find those tales very interesting and fun. And I do think that some of them may have some type of basis in reality. And it's not necessarily that, there are people that shapeshift. I just think that it's so old and we were so bad about, knowledge. I mean, obviously we started somewhere that I think that, fucking, I don't know, Joey could leave the town village and then all of a sudden, the town's attacked by a coyote, and so they assume that it was fucking Joey that did it.
Oh, totally. I mean, that's the thing too. Very rarely do those kinds of beliefs just arise out of nothing,
Right.
right? Like there's usually some kind of like real world impetus or inspiration right behind that belief. Like for instance, speaking of shapeshifters, have you heard of the Auklet?
No.
Okay, so the ferocious Auklet comes to us from the folklore of the Yupik people indigenous to western, southwestern, and south central Alaska and far eastern Russia. So This bizarre beast is said to be a spirit that can appear as an orca or a wolf, but is at its deadliest when it appears as a hybrid of the two. It has a ravenous hunger that is. I'm sorry. Hold on. Let me start that sentence over. It has a ravenous hunger that it is not afraid to slake on any human caught unawares. I could not read my own writing there, which happens way too often. All right. So
That's a great
anyway,
sentence.
one of the more popular myths of the creature's origin is that the auklet was born out of a man's obsession with the sea. This man was so enthralled with the ocean that it provoked a peculiar change in him. After spending so much time in his beloved body of water, he was unrecognizable to the people of his village. They exiled him, and he took to roaming the wild. The man discovered a pack of wolves, and out of desperate hunger, transformed into one to join their hunt. But he could not resist his love of the ocean, and this longing drove him to return to the water. When he jumped into the sea, he transformed into an orca, finding that he was capable of becoming both wolf and killer whale. Now he is a killer spirit that roams the Arctic. He mostly swims in the ocean that has so enamored him, but still occasionally transforms into a wolf or wolf orca hybrid to seek revenge on land against the people who forsook him. Ba, ba, ba.
I love everything about. So he's
It's
five
great.
things. He's a spirit. He's an orca. He's a wolf, and he's an. Well, no, I guess this is four things. He's an orca wolf.
Yeah, well, he was a man,
Right. He's
and
not a
then
man now.
he figured how to turn into an orca, and then a wolf, and then a wolf orca hybrid, and now he's a spirit. What's interesting though, and some people should take my opinion on this with a grain of salt, because my degree is not in anthropology. I took some anthropology classes, at university when I was getting my English degree. Um, but my understanding is, like, there are cultures where there isn't the division between the material and the immaterial that
Mhm.
we have now, and so when you look at some of these traditional belief systems in various indigenous cultures, including like the distant past of my own ancestors, um, you don't see this strict line drawn between, well, this is flesh and this is spirit, and ne'er the twain shall meet. No, it's things are much more fluid, right? And so you have people becoming spirits and spirits being made flesh and things, and that's just how it works, right? Like, you don't question it. Now, what's interesting about the auklet is that some scholars postulate that the Arctic wolf's occasional willingness to swim may have contributed to belief in it, right? So perhaps the Yupik saw wolf tracks leading to and from the ocean and surmised that the likeliest explanation involved a shape shifting spirit. Like, the Arctic environment is deadly, and there is plenty of room for a belief in dangerous spirits to arise in order to help explain that kind of harsh environment. So some people argue that trying to explain folkloric beliefs in that way leads to a sort of condescending attitude, and I get that. And so, like, I think we need to be very careful in how we approach this. And the first thing that we have to do, and I say this all the time, I've said it on this show before, we have to recognize that other people's beliefs, and specifically, like in this context, the beliefs of our ancestors or traditional beliefs, they don't come out of stupidity. Like, human beings are the exact fucking same now as they were like 10,000 years ago. We've been human beings the whole time with the same relative level of fucking intelligence. Like, people aren't stupid for believing this. This arose out of their environment and them applying human intelligence to their environment.
Sure.
We just happen to have the benefit of like thousands of years of mistakes that people have made.
Mhm.
Otherwise, if all of that went away, if we didn't have the sum of all human knowledge at our fingertips uh, constantly right now, um, we would be no different. We would be no different, right? So, it's we never want to cross that line into making fun of folklore or traditional beliefs or anything like that. Um, because again, I cannot stress this enough. Like these things don't come out of stupidity. It's human nature.
Yeah, I wish there was and maybe there is a word for that. A word for we only do better because we have more information at our disposal. But I don't think there is. There might be. I don't know. Tobias, you have the fucking English, major. You should know. Um, just we should
Right.
create one if there's not one. Because yes, I agree. It's not necessarily that they were not intelligent. It's that they you learn with new information presented, and that's just the way it is. And because we have the advantage of being thousands of years into the future compared to when humans first started walking the earth, um you know we have privilege. Like,
Basically,
that's what it
yeah.
is.
No, that really is what it comes down to. Yeah,
Yeah,
we see this a lot in the modern day too, because well, in specifically cryptozoology, you do see this argument constantly, where people will come up with an explanation for something like a cryptid. So with the auklet, it was saying, okay, well, maybe this comes from the fact that Arctic wolves will sometimes swim.
sure.
But then of course the argument made in cryptozoology often against that is, well, no, the people who live there would know. Like they're familiar enough with their environment where they would know if that's what it was. Um, but like, would they? You know
Right.
what I mean? Like if we're talking about anomalous events, like this is something that's not super ordinary. It's not sort of an everyday kind of thing, or maybe something that you would have like limited experience with. I don't think it would be necessarily unusual for those kinds of stories or beliefs to arise, out of that. Or honestly, it could be that they knew what it was the whole time, but this was just a fun fucking story,
Oh, I love it. Yeah,
right? Like
I'm
that
team
that
Auckland.
happens. Yeah, like that happens all the time too. Where like, okay, you want to keep your kids away from like the Arctic Ocean because you don't want them to fall in and die, right? And if you just tell them, hey, you don't go over to the ocean or you'll fall in and die, like maybe that'll make like maybe that'll work. Maybe it won't. Maybe it's just too scary. Who knows? But if you tell them this awesome story about this shape shifting fucking killer whale wolf that lives in there and you should just stay away from it, well, shit, like that's a good story for you to tell around the fucking fire at night. But, it's also hopefully a relatively effective means to transfer knowledge to say, hey, you got to stay away from this dangerous thing because it's fucking dangerous. So I'm going to make it into a fun story that you'll actually remember and hopefully believe. And you see that all the time in fucking folklore. Like,
Yeah.
ladies in white, like those ghosts that hang out
Oh yeah.
down by fucking rivers and they'll drown you. If you kids go down by the river and you see this lady in white, she's going to try to take you away and drown you because she's going to think you're one of her kids, like it serves a function.
Yep. Cautionary tales.
Stay
It
away from the river. It's dangerous.
Right. I mean, it is a big staple of a lot of these stories. Just like you said, a way to get kids to behave. Um, in some cases. No, I love that. I want to see this translated onto film. I would fucking love that. Wouldn't that be great?
Oh, I'd watch the shit out of it. Yeah.
Right.
We need an Auklet movie. Auklet movie now, Hollywood.
Right.
Let's go.
Immediately. That's a fantastic story. I'll tell you what. That's That's real that's really fun. Thinking about the part where he transforms into the wolf to, I guess, eat with them, right? They're supposed to help him get food, right? He's starving. Um, I wish I could do that, right? Just like walk up to random families and restaurants and like transform into a relative
That would be amazing, right?
and just be there, either be one of the kids or an aunt or something, right?
Right. You just walk up and sit down, transform into somebody.
Right. And then they're like, "Oh, I didn't know Aunt so and so was going to show up." And you're like, "Oh yeah, super hungry. You got the bill, right? I haven't seen you in
Oh
a
yeah.
long time."
I do that all the time. Like I guess like the equivalent would be like I just me walking into a Culver's and just like transforming into Midwesterner
Yeah.
and and people feeding me.
Yep. So, I mean, that would be pretty cool. I'm just saying. Man, I love that. That's fun. What I have found in my folklore research, because I'll be honest with you, there's a reason why I have a historical researcher. The This stuff is usually not my cup of tea. So, and again, that's why I wanted to kind of talk about some of my favorite stories because if it catches my attention, it's got to be really something to me, you know. And but I find that I am really fascinated with Inuit culture and their stories, because I have some others on my list that I wanted to share directly from that culture. So I want to talk about this one. I have not found any reasonable explanation for. If you want to speculate with me, that'd be fine.
Sure.
But this is a fun one. It is the Mahaha. Have you heard of this? The Mahaha.
Oh, I don't know. I don't think so.
This
Maybe.
is this is so fucking fun. The Mahaha is a demon, okay, and it looks very much like a pale crawler. It's like a pale humanoid with icy blue skin, and it's got horrifying, hair, stringy hair that hangs down, and it's unkempt. I don't think he wears clothes. Um, he can freeze you to death, just with his will. But he doesn't prefer that. His preference is that he tickles people to death. Okay.
Classic.
Classic. Yes, he tickles people to death. And that is a signature of the Mahaha compared to other creatures that look similarly, is that he himself constantly have this grin on his face. Mahaha. There's a reason why that's his name. He's always laughing. And you can tell that you're kind of being targeted by a Mahaha if you hear his laughing, off in the distance, right? Get the fuck away from him, because he's gonna come tickle you to death.
Tickle monster's coming to kill you.
He's a tickle monster. And so legend goes, if you come upon a frozen dead body with a giant grin on their face, you know that they were the victim of the Mahaha. And I don't know. I don't know what the potential explanation for this is. I guess maybe hypothermia. It makes you do weird shit. Maybe they're finding dead bodies that had a big smile on their face and they were frozen, so they just ascribed it to what they thought is somebody was responsible for this. Right? They didn't freeze to death. They didn't know about hypothermia at that time. I don't know. This is a weird one. I like it though.
It is weird. Yeah, I have no idea. I don't know enough about it, unfortunately, to make
Right.
to hazard like even a slightly educated guess. It's interesting though, and I think you might have a point with the maybe the smiling. I mean, maybe people would be found like not necessarily with a smile, but like a sort of like a rictus sort of grin, right?
Yeah.
So like an involuntary muscle contraction or something that would kind of give you the illusion of like a creepy ass fucking smile in death, and maybe that could inspire it. Maybe something like sleep paralysis could be involved if people
Mm.
felt like they were being touched or tickled or something, and they had that sort of panic where they felt like maybe they were going to die. Yeah, I think there's a lot of things that could. I don't know. That's interesting though. I love the idea of tickle monster out
Yeah.
there.
He's a
Just
tickle monster.
yeah, from now on, be like, I'm sorry, Emily. I don't know what happened. Like I was possessed by the tickle monster. It's a real thing. Look it up.
Right. It's 100% accurate. Yeah, I think I don't know, it's horrifying but also really fun at the same time. I don't want to be tickled to death. I don't think anybody does.
I would watch that movie though.
That really
That's a
would be a
good
good movie.
one.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah,
Uh,
tickle monster just creeping up on people, tickling them to death.
yeah, Tale of the Tickle Monster. Yeah, perfect. I think and everybody, like, maybe there's like a house party or something, and like they hear like their friend laughing in the distance, so they don't assume they're in danger,
Of
right?
course.
It
Yeah, they're
could
like,
be.
oh, I don't know. I saw Chad and Debbie wander off behind the shed earlier to make out. Then I heard some laughing back there. They're fine, right? Obviously. No, Tickle Monster got them.
Fucking tickle monsters back there doing his thing. Um, I don't know, like, how you would die from tickle. Like, I should have looked this up because I'm sure it's possible. Can you die of laughter? I think I've heard that before.
I mean,
Um,
it's a fucking made up monster, so I don't know. It could
sure,
kill you with anything.
with anything. Well, it because it also freezes people to death too. So I don't know if it like gets its fill. Right, it's tickling you, and he's having a good time, and
Oh.
then he maybe accidentally freezes you. He doesn't seem like a bad guy except for the death part. You know what I mean? He seems like he's having a good time.
Right? I don't know what keeps happening. I'm just trying to tickle people and then they die.
Yeah.
Just the saddest existence ever. I just want a friend.
He's super oblivious. Like, I don't all my friends keep dying. I don't I don't know. Um but I do want to mention his appearance. This is a popular appearance amongst many, many, many creatures across many, many different cultures, right? The spindly gray-skinned human.
Hmm.
That is something that is constant. It is constant. And so therefore I certainly take a special interest in those types of encounters because those are encounters that we still get modern day of something not tickling people. I don't think I haven't gotten one yet. But at least with that physical appearance, it does seem to be something that we encounter across the board. I think that's interesting. I think it's really interesting. Um, of course, the Wendigo looks like that if you believe in a physical Wendigo and not the spiritual version. Ghouls look like that. I mean, it's just all over. It's constant, and we've now taken it and rebranded it into creepypasta. Right, the rake. That's a popular one that people insist is real, and I'm sure some of those encounters probably are legitimate.
Hmm.
It wasn't a rake, but it was some type of pale humanoid, and I think that's interesting. So I think there could be something to this. I don't know what,
Sure.
but I'd be curious to find out. Sans tickling though, so
Right, right. We can leave the tickling out. Well, I think that at least insofar as what you're describing is again just watching folklore in action, right? So like there is often a like a source, right, for most folklore. Like there often there's a kernel of truth. You know what I mean? And so it could be, and we see this when folklore intersects with paranormal studies, which they're practically that Venn diagram is practically a circle,
sure,
but so often when they intersect, we will see these folkloric explanations for anomalous phenomena, and it's what gets us the rake or tickle monster
sure,
or what pale crawlers or whatever the hell you want to call them, right? Like, because I don't doubt that there are people experiencing things that they can't explain. I
hmm,
don't doubt that for 1 second. I know I've spoken to them. I don't know what those things are, and neither does anybody else. But what's interesting is this human predilection towards creating stories around them,
yeah,
around creating these narratives to try to explain phenomena,
hmm,
and that's a creation of so much folklore, right? Is just us trying to explain shit that we don't fucking understand. And so we come up with we see it all the time. We see it in ufology, which is why we have everything from alien abduction for scientific experience, like experiments, to alien human hybrids, to cosmic space brothers, to galactic federations, to all kinds of shit that has been folded into the ufology narrative at this fucking point, right? And it's all none of it is necessarily real. I don't know that it isn't, but I sure also don't know that it is. Um, and it's all a means for people to try to make sense of and explain this shit that is happening that we don't fucking understand. It's
yeah.
that part is just fascinating to me.
Oh yeah, I agree. I think that it is. it is really interesting, and it is interesting to go back and kind of see what the ties are between these people who um fucking don't know each other, right? Wouldn't have met each other during those times, but then they're all telling very, similar stories, at least to a degree of, the appearance of the creature anyway. Um, God, right now I'm being attacked by a cat. Sorry. Anyway, it's climbing all
Could
over
be
everything.
worse.
It could be
Could be a
worse.
tickle monster. Just saying.
It could be a tickle monster. Anyway, so yeah, I find that really fascinating. This one's just fun because it's a fucking tickle monster. Okay, and like it's gonna be really hard for me to top it. But I do have more. So
Okay.
so I'll go ahead with my next Inuit story is about the tale of the sun and the moon. Okay. So the sun and the moon, this is kind of a weird, this is a very strange encounter. There's a lot of lore. There's a story of a brother and sister duo. Okay. And they are really close. The brother happens to be blind. Okay. And one day he accidentally shoots and kills a bear. He's not aware that he shot and killed this bear. He just knows that he shot a gun or something at this bear and kills it. And the grandmother, who's taking care of the brother and sister, take the bear for food, right? But she treats the blind brother like shit. She doesn't tell him about the bear. She doesn't give him bear meat. She gives him dog meat instead. And he's kept like away from the family.
Aw.
Yeah, really, really tragic. So one day, the boy ends up being called to a body of water, and he goes out on a canoe with a body of water, and there is a creature there that is talking with him, and the creature kind of takes him out into the water and is continuously like asking the boy, "Oh, are you blind? Can you see?" And he's like, "I can't see shit. I'm blind." And he dunks the boy under the water and pulls him back out and asks again, "Can you see? Are you blind?" And the boy repeatedly is like, "Still can't see anything."
So she's just waterboarding this kid to make
Yeah,
sure he's actually blind?
yeah. And
What the fuck?
so this creature is constantly, dipping him in the water. Now his vision is getting better. Slowly, so he
Okay.
can finally kind of start to see shapes and colors, and now it's a blurry image, and it's getting better and better, and eventually he finds the creature that's been dunking him has been this loon. Okay. And he's better now. He can see.
Well, that's nice.
It's nice. He goes back to the family hut and he finds out that he has actually been treated fucking horribly, by the family or by the grandmother, at least. He finds out about the bear meat versus the dog meat, and he's like, "Oh man, fuck this." He kills grandma, and
That's fair.
he kills grandma, and him and his sister run off together. And they run off and they find another tribe of people who end up being genderless. As a matter of fact, they're not just genderless, their genitalia, is missing completely. They don't reproduce sexually.
Hmm.
And so as they kind of grow up with this tribe, and these are kind of staple figures in the Inuit community, so they've got all kinds of other adventures that they go on. But one story is that as they're growing up in this tribe of people, the sister one night is sexually assaulted. And she's like, "Okay, well," and this keeps happening. Somebody keeps coming into her tent at nights and they're having their way with her. And she's like, "Well, look,
Jesus.
I'm going to put an end to this. I got an idea." She takes some soot and she decides while the perpetrator is back in the tent, she rubs it on him, rubs it on his face. And she ends up waking up the next morning, going out, and she's seeing that all the villagers there are making fun of her brother. And she finds out it's because, well, he's got soot all over his face.
Oh, come on.
So she confronts him, right? And this is not good. It's not a good confrontation. They both take off in a chase, right? He's chasing her around. She's got a torch with her, and they're running around. And then somehow they end up becoming the sun and the moon from there.
Okay.
The moon being the brother and the sun being the sister.
So so they're chasing each other all the time. Okay.
They are now in a perpetual chase in history, and sometimes he catches her. Right? That's why we have eclipses.
Yeah.
And then she runs away. So, really kind of a very sad story of the
That's fucked up.
sun and the moon.
That's so fucked up. So
Um,
he went from being this tortured blind kid. I felt
yeah,
sorry for him
I
till
know,
he
right?
started assaulting his sister.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck,
What a
man?
twist, you know? Didn't
Jesus,
see that
that's
one
like
coming.
that's one of those A24 movies you don't like.
It
That's what that
is.
is.
They should make that movie.
They should, so I could not watch it.
Right. Continue to not watch it. Um, that is, I think, it is a well thought out story. I'll tell you that. That is one hell of an explanation for why you never really see the sun and the moon together. And sometimes you do, but you don't see them on top of each other all the time. Um, I'm impressed. I'm impressed with wherever that story came from. Like, I'll be honest with you, it is so fucking involved. But it had me going the whole time. I'm like, okay, the sun and the moon, and I start reading it, and I'm like, what is a? It starts off with the boy and the loon, right, which is the
Yeah.
first story, and then you have to know that story to know how they escaped the village and why they got to a sexless village. For why the sexual assault is important. Man, that is some great A storytelling. I don't, it's sad, but yeah, the sun and the moon. That's why the moon chases the
Nicely
sun.
done, Inuits.
I know, good for them.
That's some grade A fucked up storytelling.
Fucked up storytelling. It wouldn't be the show if it was all wholesome. I had to really go there.
Oh no, I get it. Like I'm not sorry I heard it, but like I am profoundly disturbed.
On that note, what do you got for us, Tobias? You got any fun folklore or favorite folklore?
Nothing like that.
Oof. All right. It's hard to follow. It's a hard
No,
one.
well, I'm a huge stick in the mud, so I mostly concentrate on basically what I was talking about before, sort of where we see folklore overlapping
Mhm.
with paranormal studies, right? And so I'm reminded of, and this is one of my great research loves is fairy lore, right?
Mhm.
Um, Specifically, one of the things that came to mind was um, pixie rings and elf rings, right? And
Yes.
so
Yeah.
uh, now most people are probably familiar with the idea of seeing a ring of mushrooms and explaining that by saying, oh well, fairies danced in a circle here, right? But there's another form of that, right? So if you look at the 1911 book, The Fairy Faith in Celtic Countries, written by W.Y. Evans Wentz, um, you can actually find stories of these fairy circles that are actually much closer to crop circles. They actually talk about coming in the night to thresh farmers' grain in a way that's actually very, very similar to the mowing devil of the 17th century, and that of course has famously become analogous of the crop circle phenomenon, right? And so it's interesting to me to see these historic accounts, like this recorded folklore of something, and then be able to tie it to modern mysteries. And nothing is better for that than fairy lore. Like nothing at all. You
Yeah.
get everything from alien abductions to human hybrid experiment stuff to crop circles to whatever the fuck you want through
Mhm.
fairy lore, you know. Um, and so that's one of my favorites. I have incorporated a lot of fairy lore into my work over the years, and sort of what I've come to recognize about it is that when you're looking at fairy lore, right, it's not this sort of distinct phenomenon in and of itself, right? Like literally fairy lore encompasses everything because every fucking thing that people couldn't explain, and specifically by people, I'm talking about like Western Europeans, couldn't explain, was just called fairies. You know, if you saw a weird light, fairies. If shit was moving around your house and you couldn't see who was doing it, fairies.
Yep.
If something came to you in the night and like abducted you and then brought you back, totally fairies. And so like it's everything. It's ghosts and hauntings, it's UFOs, it's fucking cryptids. You know, you get stories of trolls and like weird, like wild men of the woods, like woodwoses and stuff. And a lot of that stuff is analogous to, well, like Bigfoot, of course.
Hmm.
Um, and so yeah, it's just everything was fairies, and so like it deserves its own episode.
Oh yeah.
But I wanted to bring it, like I wanted to bring it up without going into huge detail because I would lose hours, and it really deserves its own time, just because I think it illustrates so well the intersection of folklore and paranormal research. You
Yeah.
know, yeah, fucking fairy lore. Read it, everybody. Like seriously, don't come at me about fairies if you don't own your own copy of the Fairy Faith in Celtic Countries. You know what I mean? Like there are just certain books. Like if you don't have it and you haven't read it, like I don't know. You just don't know fairies like you think you do.
That's your homework from Tobias this episode.
Yes.
Learn your shit about fairies. No, it
Buy the
is,
Fairy Faith in Celtic Countries and then read it.
and read it and know. Yeah, it is a concept that is, again, spans not just Celtic culture. The Japanese call them yokai.
Yeah.
And I mean, basically, what it is, it's fairies. It's anything supernatural, paranormal, unexplained. They chalk it up to the yokai. And, even to the extent of, they are applying, yokai logic to everyday animals, or, your cat's acting up. Oh, it's a yokai. It's Nekomata, they, they are, constantly throwing that term out there, and I love that. I love that there's this catch-all for the strange, right? And we don't really have that now, I guess, now that we're trying to take it more into a scientific scope. Except we
People
do
have tried. Like ultra terrestrials kind of skirts the boundary a little bit.
a little bit, yeah, a little bit. Well, I was going to say Fortean, as an adjective, I think covers it, but as you and I both know, people don't know what the fuck that means. So
True. And it also doesn't, like the term Fortean doesn't give something a specific position other than to claim it as being anomalous. So
right,
it's not making a determination as to the origin of the phenomenon. It's
true.
just saying it's weird,
That's
which is
true.
a difference between that and like say fairies or ultra terrestrials or yokai or whatever.
Because they have an origin story. I gotcha.
Right.
Yeah, very. That's true. That's a good point. But it doesn't matter because we still use fairies. Especially in like granny magic and stuff like that. The Appalachians are heavy into that.
Uh,
It's still very, very prevalent even today. It has survived the test of time, whereas stuff like, the Mahaha hasn't. Which I think is a testament to its importance in and of itself. Um, I agree. I think we should cover fairies, but man, can you imagine? We'd have to do like a 10-part fairies series.
I think you'd want to be specific about it, and
Yeah,
and we could talk about this off the actual
sure.
air. But yeah, I think there's a way to do it. But you're right. You really have to sort of pick specific categories and then have them each be their own thing. And there could be a hell of a lot of them. One thing I will say for the sorts of spirits of like various in indigenous peoples, I think a lot of those traditions are more alive than we think, but also a lot of them have died out through systemic like oppression and
Oh
things
yeah.
like that. You know what I mean? So I don't know that it has to do as much with like say anything in terms of validity or strength of belief or anything like that, so much as just getting fucking railed by huge oppressive forces, sort of decimating their culture, or the various indigenous cultures. Obviously, it's not one monolithic fucking culture, but various indigenous countries, especially in like North America, obviously, which is the one we can speak
Sure.
to because we live here, and we should be aware of how it has happened in our own country. But it's the same thing in Canada, certainly.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
Where
look
oh, go ahead.
into I was just going to say people should look into extinct cultures. They exist and they didn't go extinct that long ago. you know. Compared to the tests of time that we've been here. It is a really interesting topic, and to see these, I mean, it's terrible. But there are a lot, people think of like indigenous people and they think of like, I don't know, you'll have somebody be like, "Well, I'm, 1/100th Cherokee or something."
Like some dude who
Um,
looks exactly like me, which is to
yeah,
say, like super like white,
yeah,
blue-eyed guy, being like, "Oh yeah, no, I'm Navajo. Trust me."
right. And
Yeah,
I'm not saying that people that look white can't, have some type of significant
of
culture. They
course
can,
not.
but yeah, I mean, but you'll have like these popular hits: the Navajo, the Cherokee, the whatever, whatever it is. We've got all these indigenous tribes that people are familiar with, but there's so many that nobody ever talks about because they're not around anymore. They don't hold space here any longer. And I think it's very important to also look at them and their stories, especially when you're talking about, a lot of people like to be like, oh, well, this tribe saw the Bigfoot all the time. And, but you never hear them talking about Bigfoot in those extinct cultures either. And it's not because it doesn't exist. It's just that it doesn't exist. The tribes themselves don't exist now. So we're doing them a disservice by then letting that culture die completely, you
Yeah.
know,
Oh,
and
totally. I completely agree. It's just something that I like to bring up, because there is so much surviving fairy lore, and a lot of that has to do with the fact that Western Europe dominated the shit
right,
out of like Western civilization for hundreds of years at this point. So yes, our ancestors' traditional beliefs survived. We have good records of them, and for the cultures that were being dominated and systemically oppressed, like yeah, they're unfortunately their stories didn't always survive in the way that others did. And it doesn't mean that like fairies are real but the auklet is fake. No, that's fucking
right.
horseshit. Like fairies are no more real than the auklet or anything else. That is to say, not that they are not necessarily real, but if they are or they could be, then so could it.
Hmm.
And they represent, I think, the exact same thing, which um, is people trying to explain something that is anomalous, something that people telling stories about things that maybe they just didn't understand, something that we still do today.
Right. Yep. Exactly. And yeah, no, I'd be totally down to talk fairies. For sure. I think it's fun. I like magic and whimsy. So it's right up my alley. I'm happy to talk about it. Um, I like the littler fairies, the little small like the duende. I like the duende, right? And puckwudgies.
Oh, sure.
Those are I think they're a super hot topic, and I think people like to hear about them, and I'd like to talk about them for sure.
Yeah, we have
Um,
something here called the oh, and I hope I'm pronouncing this correctly, the Memagwesi,
okay.
which is like it's in Ojibwa um, legend, I believe, of little hairy people. They're these little like aquatic spirits that hang out by rivers,
Oh,
and it's sort of similar to what you're talking about. Like I think puckwudgies are described fairly similarly.
Yeah, very
Um,
little hairy terrors. Yeah, that's
but you actually get that a lot, you know,
yeah.
the Algonquin tribes, which like so Algonquin is this it's like a language grouping, right?
Hmm.
So, you know, similar to like if I say Germanic, well, I'm talking about a language grouping, so it's a bunch of different cultures.
Right.
So like with the Algonquin peoples around the Great Lakes, I think there was a lot of dissemination of folklore and other like beliefs and things amongst them, and so you see similarities across the like the various entities that exist within those belief systems, which is pretty fascinating. But so yeah, like all over the like northern and like northeast United States, I think you see a like from the north Midwest, you know, all the way out like east, you see a lot of similarities in those. So yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know.
Well,
That's
that's why you
fascinating.
have multiple different types of Wendigo, you know?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, it happens. But speaking of the Wendigo, I did want to leave you guys off on a wholesome story. Do you want to hear a wholesome story to wrap it up?
Sure. I mean, if I am you guys, then yes.
You are you guys. Right now, you are you guys. So I wanted to talk about man's first dog. Okay. So in Native American lore, there were two tribesmen who ended up being they were out on the river, they were hunting, and their canoe broke. Okay, sprung a leak, was sawed in half, whatever. Um, doesn't matter how their canoe got there, but they were stranded in an unfamiliar area. And while they were stranded, they were there for a couple of days. They started, well, ironically, going hungry. They were approached by a giant. And the giant comes and he goes, "Hey, you guys sure look damn hungry. Why don't you come to my house? And, I'll feed you. We'll fix your boat up. It'll be great." And they're like, "Yeah, sure, whatever. That's fine. What choice do we have?" you know? So they go back with the giant to his dwelling. And the giant, of course, gets him cleaned up, is giving him a hot meal. And there's a knock at the door. And the giant goes and opens it. And it is, lo and behold, it's a Wendigo. And the Wendigo comes in and goes, "Oh my god, I'm here to save you guys. This giant, he's going to eat you. Yeah, that's his plan. He's here fattening you up, and he wants a hot meal too. So he's getting you nice and warm, and he's going to eat you." And the giant is like, "Well, who are you going to believe? You going to believe me, the giant, or this guy, the Wendigo?" And well, the tribesmen, they didn't know what to do. They just kind of looked at each other. They're like, "Well, I mean, what are you guys thinking?" It didn't matter because the giant had this bowl sitting on the ground that was upside down, and he lifts up the bowl, and out pops a dog, a little puppy. And the puppy, as we know, all animals knew better and was a good judge of character, and it chased off the Wendigo. And in his generosity, the gracious giant ended up gifting the puppy to them, and they took it back with them, and that's how they started the relationship with man's best friend. Isn't that adorable?
Aw, good dog.
Good
Who's a
dog.
good boy? Huh?
I love that. Whenever you hear stories of giants and Wendigo, you always just hear like, "Oh, this guy was possessed and he ate his whole family. The giants came and ate the whole village." You never hear of
Right.
like these little, I mean, these are just little tales, right? Little like I think it's called child it's like child lore, right? It's like things that you tell the kids and it's nice
Oh,
and
sure.
wholesome.
Yeah, yeah.
And I don't know, that one sticks with me. So I want to believe
It is
that's where
fun.
dogs come from. So
That's my story, and I'm sticking to it from now on, going forward.
with that in mind, I intend on bringing some of these back. I think the Mahaha needs his own spotlight, and I think that most of these deserve their own movie. And
I would buy a Tickle Monster T-shirt. So somebody make it happen, or I'll get Emily to make it happen. Who knows?
you should get Emily to make it happen. That would be fantastic. I'll buy one. So there's you at least got one sale.
Nice.
The tickle monster.
Sometimes like we'll just come up with T-shirt ideas because I want it as a T-shirt. you know.
That's
So
most of my t-shirts too. I understand.
nice.
I want to buy this and I will. And sometimes I am the only one. So,
Totally
and
worth it.
you know what? I got a t-shirt out of it that I like. So, but any closing thoughts on folklore or anything that we talked about today?
I mean, I think I said everything that I have to say about it at this point. There's always
Sure.
much more to say. You know, I mean, fundamentally, um, the the things that I hope people take away from this overall are recognizing when and where this intersects with paranormal research and understanding that folklore is not something that exists only in the distant past, but is something that exists today and is being actively created all the time by each of us
Mhm.
constantly through our participation in storytelling. And also that like it's important to recognize through that our ancestors or various indigenous cultures, wherever we're getting some of the older examples of folklore are, like those people weren't stupid. They're if they're stupid, then we're stupid too because we're the same, you know.
Right.
And so I think people need to understand that. But like those, like that's the core that I hope people take away. You know,
And you're allowed to enjoy both. Like
fuck yeah,
fucking you're allowed to be the most hardcore skeptic. You don't believe anything we talk about on the show and still enjoy partaking in a good folk tale.
yeah,
There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And I hope that people recognize that and take that with them. It's like the Loch Ness monster, right? Do I believe that there is a dinosaur living in Loch Ness? No, but it's fun too.
sure. I'd watch a movie about it.
Oh yeah. I think
You
there's
know,
probably a bunch
I
actually.
I have watched movies about it, but yeah, no, like that's you're 100% correct on that.
Right. You can enjoy both of, you can enjoy finding the truth and you can also enjoy finding the story and where it came from and where it originates. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. And I suppose if you needed permission, here it is. So, um yeah, I think it's great. If you guys have your own favorites, folk tales, folk stories, folk songs, whatever it is, send them my way. I'll check them out. It is a plenty out there. It is literally an endless rabbit hole at this point. So if you have any favorites, let me know. And if you have any evidence for any of the things we talked about today, again, let me know as well. So with that being said, guys, we'll see you back here next Wednesday.